A parliament in flames, a leader toppled. Nepal's Gen Z protesters ask, what comes next? What comes next? What began as a Gen Z-led social media movement against the lavish lifestyles of Nepo kids and led to the ousting of a prime minister and the deadliest social unrest, by the way, Nepal has been in years. And now comes the complicated question of what happens next. What happens next? And plumes of dark, by the way, smoke toward above soldiers enforcing a curfew. Curfew on the quiet streets of Kathmandu. Kathmandu on Wednesday morning as rumors swirled about a possible meeting between the leaderless Gen Z movement and the army and the president. An uneasy, an uneasy calm seemed by the way to have settled after two nights of chaos that saw tens of thousands of people and pour onto the streets by the way to vent their fury and setting fire to parliament and the Supreme Court by the way, key symbols of state and clashing with the government forces sent to keep them under control. And 30 by the way, 30 people by the way, 30 people have been killed and more than 1,000 wounded in the clashes. According to the health ministry, the unrest started in early September. And when a group by the way of young Nepals fed up by the way, we seeing politicians' children boasting about their designer and handbags and luxury travel while most people struggle to make ends meet, organized a peaceful protest. And anger had been by the way brewing for years about the country's worsening, yes, and unemployment crisis and lack of economic opportunities. And exacerbated by the way, exacerbated by what many viewed as a growing disparity between the country's elite and regular people. And word quickly spreads in the Himalayan country of 30 million, by the way, 30 million, and then a government ban last week on more than two dozen social media platforms, including Instagram and Facebook, and WhatsApp added fuel to the fire. And the build up, by the way, of the frustration was what led to this movement. And Sarisha, by the way, who attended the protests, told the CNN News, describing the social media ban as the last straw. And the unemployment rate for youth aged from 15 to 24 in Nepal was 20% in 2024 season, according to the World Bank, and forcing many young people to move abroad to find work. And more than 33% of Nepal's GDP came from personal remittances, according to the World Bank, a number that has steadily risen over the past 3 decades. Social media is the only platform, by the way, only platform where we can talk and share and follow the global media. And said Brahmin, by the way, Brahmin said, a filemaker in Nepal who attended the protests. Most of our friends, our families, by the way, our brothers are outside the country. So that was the medium of communication on Monday morning. And thousands of young people, including many dressed in school uniforms and gathered at Metigar, Mandala, and a moment, by the way, in the heart of Kathmandu near the federal parliament building. And but the protests, by the way, quickly spiraled out of control when some of the protesters surged towards, by the way, the parliament building and began climbing up the gate and clashing with police. And the police, by the way, used live ammunition, water cannons, and tear gas against the protesters, according to Reuters news agency. And Nearly 19 people, by the way, 19 people were killed and hundreds were wounded in the clashes Monday, according to Nepal authorities. And you all felt very hopeless and helpless at that point. And Shireza says that, by the way, that several government ministers, including the home minister, resigned in the wake of the violence, and which sparked widespread outrage both within Nepal and internationally. And on Tuesday, by the way, the protests belonged as people of all ages defined curfews and came out into the streets to protest the government's bloody crackdown. And Gen Z, by the way, demanded accountability. Accountability and fair investigation for this corruption. And the luxury, by the way, lifestyle of all these corrupted politicians' kids. And they said Sherry Rang, by the way, went to the protests after seeing reports that young people were being killed. But unfortunately, what we saw, and the government using excessive forces and killing, murdering this youth's escalation. And from there, by the way, the unrest escalated. Protesters, by the way, smashed windows and looted local business and set government building on fire. And the country's main international airport responded on Wednesday after being shut for 24 hours because of the violence. A spokesperson, by the way, for the civil aviation authority of Nepal, and Janendra, by the way, and told CNN News the Supreme Court and the Singha Durbar, a sprawling palace complex in Kathmandu, which houses Nepal's government ministers, and were both set on fire. And the photos, by the way, showed protesters standing atop Singha Durbar and waving the Nepali flag in sense of a student lead and uprising that toppled a government in neighboring and Bangladesh last year. And the video, by the way, also appeared to show demonstrators and ransacking Prime Minister KB Sharma, oil's private residence on Tuesday. And Reuters reported, by the way, crowds of protesters could be seen breaking into the property and destroying furniture before setting it alight. The protesters, which are led by people ages from 13 to 28, and the cohort known as Generation Z, are Nepal's worst, by the way, unrest in years. And Gen Z, by the way, protesters who spoke to CNN distanced themselves from the chaos that followed, which they blamed on opportunities and by the way, infiltrated the movement. And they destroyed everything. And they said, by the way, Sahadif Khatri, a lawyer who attended Monday's protest but lamented the destruction. And they are not just building, by the way, and they are not just bricks. And by the way, says that they carry our history, our legacy. And Oil announced his resignation on Tuesday in a letter that cited the extraordinary situation in the country, according to the copy of the note posted on social media by a top-eyed. And a dark cloud, by the way, of smoke hung over Kathmandu as the city burned, a sign of the turmoil that had overtaken the country. And in the hours after Oil, by the way, stepped down, the Nepali army appealed for a peaceful solution through dialogue, and urging, by the way, all citizens to exercise restraint to prevent further loss of life and property in this critical situation. And even as protesters celebrated, by the way, to the toppling of a leader they regard as a symbol of deep-rooted problems, many were still reeling over the young lives lost and the cost of this week's turmoil turmoil of the city. And by Wednesday, by the way, the streets in Kathmandu many littered with piles of, of charged debris and were largely quiet. And some building, by the way, still smoldered from the fires of the day before, and soldiers carrying rifles enforced a nationwide curfew. Nepal's president Ramachandra, by the way, Baudil has urged demonstrators to cooperate for a peaceful resolution and called on yes protesters to come to talk. And former chief, by the way, Justice Suhaila Suhaila Karki has emerged as the main protester-backed candidate to head an interim government. Secretary of the Nepal Supreme Court Bar Association, Raman Kumar Karna told CNN News that he added that there were legal and constitutional hurdles to her being directly appointed to a government role. And discussion were ongoing, by the way. And several protesters who spoke to CNN News said they want to see new leadership with more Gen Z representation. I think Nepal, by the way, is ready to see the young faces along with the experienced ones, Khatri said. Khatri says that. And others, by the way, were worried about the response from a governing class that has just been rattled by its biggest challenge in years. It is very chaotic. It is very chaotic, really. And all WhatsApp groups are exploding with discussions and fears. A 24 years old, by the way, law student from Kathmandu told CNN News requesting anonymity. And you are scared that students who protested peacefully will also be targeted. Thank you so much. Have a nice time and great day. Thank you so much, my friends. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.